my hair are gone, what little remains is very white, and the Dean Sahib was very kind to brush off a remnant of a foodstuff from my beard, because at old age various faculties become weak. So the problem is that I passed my masters in 65, finished a PhD in 70, and if you add the years, I am almost 45 years past post PhD. So you might as well think that, oh, what is this fossil doing here? And when my biodata was being downloaded from the net, my son is the one who is responsible for my biodata on the net, which makes me look very important, eminent, scholarly, and so on. But I would be very dishonest if I said that is truthful. As you know, all parents are proud of their children, and all children are equally, which parents don't realize often, are very proud of their parents. So my son, in current parlance, sexed up my CV for the net, and it has various mistakes. So I must apologize for that also, because it says teaching experience 32 years, it turns out 42 years. It mentions various things which are neither here nor there. I have had an interesting career, and why I am happy to come and talk to you is, it has nothing to do with my JNU. In JNU what I did, I must share this secret with you. I was famous as Professor Biryani in JNU. And why I was famous as Professor Biryani in JNU is that I am very interested in Indian food. I serve as a consultant, or have served as a consultant with major hotel chains like ITC, Oberoi, Taj, Hyatt, JP Group, etc. I also have served as a consultant with Pepsi, McCain, etc. So I have an interest in food and marketing of food and management of food industry, which has been disproportionate to what supposedly my academic qualifications are. So I wrote a column for 10 years, it continues in Tribune on food. I have done a book on food published in London called India Cookbook, which was a New York Times bestseller. I'm not going into the self-promotion. Please don't misunderstand me. This book was the bestseller list for 5 years in New York Times. You can do the Google search. You say Pushpesh Pant plus India Cookbook and you will get the ratings, etc. So I don't have to worry about that. But the point I'm trying to talk to you is that my academic career at JNU has nothing to do with my major concerns in life. I must confess, and this is what I want to talk to you about. Lots of times in life what happens is, you study in a discipline. You prepare yourself for a career in one field. And ultimately what happens is, what you do and what matters most in your life is something totally different. Now, if my face is familiar, if people have heard the name, I'm not so sure very many of you would have heard it. The recent example is that I was the judge in Aapki Adalat for Mr. Narendra Modi before he became the Prime Minister. The ladies and gentlemen, the applause belongs to Mr. Modi, not to me. The funny part was, the hits on the Facebook of this Adalat is 2.5 million by now. It has nothing to do with any merits which I have. Entirely I was riding piggyback on the popularity of Mr. Narendra Modi. So what I'm trying to get across to you is this, and why I interrupted the introduction is that my having been in JNU, done a PhD in international relations, or taught for 40 years in Delhi University, in JNU, or at ITM University next door now, doesn't make a difference to what I'm going to talk to you. I'm not qualified because of that. At the moment I'm teaching in a private university, I'm teaching law. That has nothing to do with international relations. And why I'm teaching law is that I was bored with international relations at one stage, and I studied law. And I wanted to practice law in Supreme Court. Then I realized that I was not cut out to put hard hours like good young people and make a career of law. So I thought I would rather teach law rather than practice law. And I enjoyed teaching law, but that's another issue. So what I'm trying to convey to you is this, that why I interrupted the introduction is, and why I am so happy to be with you and talk to you is, I think I've always enjoyed teaching. When I taught history in Delhi University, I enjoyed teaching it. When I taught international relations in JNU, I enjoyed it. I'm teaching law at the moment and I'm enjoying it. I also teach some very odd courses at odd places. I teach food studies in the University of Toronto, which most people don't even know, Canada doesn't even have it. I have also served as a member of the jury of international film festivals for Indian film festivals and national film festivals and awards. You might say, what does it have to do with, why should you come and talk to us about this? I think those are the things which make me qualified, quote unquote, to come and talk to you. Why I enjoy teaching is that what is so special about the life of a teacher is that teacher keeps getting older. I started teaching at the age of 22. I was fortunate to pass my masters at 18, finish my PhD at 21, started teaching in Delhi University at the age of 22. When the difference between my age and the students was just 2 to 3 years. By the time I retired from JNU, I was 65 plus, and the average age of my students hadn't changed. They were by that time 52, 53 years younger than me. A half a century divided them, and I'm one of those freak cases who has had the pleasure of teaching the father, the son, and almost ended up teaching the grandson or the granddaughter. So what happens is that when you are in teaching profession, you are in touch with younger people all your life. And what that has got to do with the subject of our discussion today is the crucial point. When you are talking in terms of India emergent, resurgent, and the power of youth, there are two parts to this. We are talking of India and we are talking of the power of youth. अब अगर आप इन दो चीज़ों को ध्यान में रखते हैं, तो जब हम भारत की बात कर रहे हैं और इस इलेक्शन के दौरान, and that is why I wanted to bring in Mr. Modi in आपकी अदालत, not because I wanted to tell you कि हम भी मोदी साहब को पास से देखा, आपको चुहा है आग से, not वैरायटी की जाए, because Mr. Modi throughout the election campaign was accused of betraying the idea of India. कि भारत की जो सोच है, जो भारत की कल्पना है, जो नेहरू के ज़माने से चली आ रही, गांधी के सपनों का भारत था, नेहरू का भारत था, उससे कोई लेना देना मोदी साहब का नहीं है। और वो जो कुछ भी भारत की बात करते हैं वो अखंड भारत है, हिंदुत्व का भारत है। और यहाँ पे ज़रूरी है कि I must make my political biases clear. I do not belong to BJP. I do not support the RSS. At one stage I was pro-Congress. I am no longer pro-Congress. I started my career as a youngster attached to Dr. Lohiya's Socialist Party, pro-Hindi, which is ceased to exist. That party doesn't matter in Indian politics right now. And I am not a believing Hindu. I was born in a Hindu family, but I am an atheist. Now you must keep this in mind before we proceed any further. So I am not accused of being either a Hindu Tuwala or a Congresi Chapcha or a Socialist Party ka supporter or whatever. I have never been, and that's why I am so clear that I put a distance between myself and JNU. जब आप JNU का नाम लेते हैं, that's why I come back to the Mr. Modi's अदालत. Mr. Modi came to the studio at 10:30. We were waiting कि हवाई जहाज उतरेगा, वो प्रकट हो गया, हम लोग काम शुरू करेंगे. Mr. Modi came to the studio at 10:30. We started shooting at 11. Just before we went to the studio, Mr. Rajat Sharma introduced me to Mr. Modi. Dr. Pant from JNU, he used to teach there. The first thing which Mr. Modi told me, तब तो आप हमारे खिलाफ ही फैसला देंगे. आप JNU के हैं, आप तो मार्क्सिस्ट कम्युनिस्ट होंगे और हमारे खिलाफ ही होंगे. So I had the pleasure of telling him कि अदालत गवाही और सबूत पे फैसला करेगी, आप निश्चित रहें. मैं मार्क्सवादी नहीं. Interestingly, at another situation like this, I was introduced by a very old friend who has known me for 40 years. Here is Dr. Pant from JNU. He, like me, is a Marxist. So I did the same which I did. I must apologize again to you. I said, please stop. You may be a Marxist, I am not a Marxist. So I have spent 40 years of my life in JNU, but I have never been a Marxist. So let's keep it at that. Now, why this is important is, when we talk of India, what are we talking about? आप लोगों ने नेशनल एंथम तो मोटा-मोटा सबको याद होगा, थोड़ा बहुत आपने सुना होगा. Now, how does it go? जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता. And what happens next? Excellent. Don't expect me to get up. You are not singing it on a formal occasion. पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा. यहाँ तक अगर आप देखें तो हिंदुस्तान कितनों में बन गया अब तक. जिस हिंदुस्तान की आप बात कर रहे हैं, आर वी हैविंग अ पिक्चर इन अवर माइंड ऑफ इंडिया or are we having the national anthem which recognizes the division fault lines in the geography of the subcontinent which have a strong cultural bond. अब आप बार बार ये कहते हैं कि हम तो महान देश हैं, हमारे देश में विविधता में एकता है और we are celebrating diversity. मगर अगर हम अपनी विविधता का इतना गर्व करते हैं और हमारी विविधता में एकता है, तो काहे को हम छाती कूट कूट के परेशान हो रहे हैं कि हमारे सर पर हिंदी क्यों थोपी जा रही है दक्षिण भारत में? क्यों हमें इतनी परेशानी है कि मोदी जी आएंगे तो भारत के टुकड़े टुकड़े हो जाएंगे, क्योंकि उनका भारत जो है वो डिविजिव भारत है। मगर अगर विविधता को स्वीकार नेहरू भी करते थे और उस विविधता को कोई नकार नहीं सकता है, और हिंदुओं और मुसलमानों में कभी कोई सांप्रदायिक द्वेष नहीं था, तो देश के विभाजन के बाद देश के फिर बढ़ने का इतना अधिक खतरा क्यों है? आप क्यों चिंता कर रहे हैं? तो दिस इज द फर्स्ट पार्ट विच आई विश टू डिस्कस विद यू ओपनली, डेमोक्रेटिकली एंड इक्वली। जब मैं बोलना समाप्त करूं तब तक आपको इंतजार करने की जरूरत नहीं है। यदि आपको बीच में ये लगता है कि आई एम टॉकिंग समथिंग वेरी स्टूपिड और यू डोंट डिसएग्री विद इट, you don't agree with it, I think you can determine me then and there. Because I think the first and the most important thing is that we must have a clarity what India are we talking about before we say ये certain है भी कि नहीं है। आज से 10 साल पहले बीजेपी ran a campaign, some of you would not be very small children, you would not remember it, but you must have been reminded enough during the last election campaign कि Shining India campaign fail कर गया था। तो Shining India जो था वो उस जमाने का रिसर्जेंट इंडिया या इमर्जिंग इंडिया था, और हम बात जिस इंडिया की कर रहे थे वो इंडिया नेशन स्टेट था, यानी भारत एक जो राष्ट्र राज्य है वो अखंड भारत नहीं था, वो साउथ एशिया वाला भारत नहीं था। उसमें पाकिस्तान रिसर्जेंट की हम बात नहीं कर रहे, बांग्लादेश उसका हिस्सा नहीं है, श्रीलंका उसका हिस्सा नहीं है, वी आर टॉकिंग ऑफ द नेशन स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया। क्या वो सारा भारत जो भारत का एक संघ है वो सारा का सारा रिसर्जेंट है? There was a minister who ceased to be a minister called Jairam Ramesh, a close friend, who once said कि हिंदुस्तान के दो टुकड़े हैं, उत्तर से भारत तक एक रेखा जाती है जिसको मैं, चूंकि मेरा खाने पीने में शौक है, आई कॉल द येलो दाल डिवाइड, दूसरा है नॉर्थ साउथ डिवाइड। उनका कहना था कि नर्मदा के दक्षिण में और कानपुर के पश्चिम में जो हिंदुस्तान है वो तो प्रोग्रेसिव है, वो तो तरक्की पसंद है, और जो बाकी हिंदुस्तान है नर्मदा के उत्तर में और कानपुर के पूरब में वो हिंदुस्तान इमर्जिंग हिंदुस्तान नहीं है। सो देयर आर टू इंडियाज। नो डिपेंडिंग ऑन योर पॉलिटिकल sympathies, you could say the divide is between asli Bharat and India, it is between rural India and urban India, but these categories, these labels don't make sense because they are blurred. But we'll come to even something more interesting than this in a minute. The point is there a divide between urban India and rural India? आप जहाँ बैठे हैं ये नोएडा में, ये दिल्ली तो नहीं है, मगर दिल्ली में और इसमें ज़्यादा फर्क भी नहीं है। मगर थोड़ा आप आगे पीछे चले जाएं, वो गांव मंडावली हो या कोई दूसरा गांव हो या लोनी बॉर्डर हो या गाजीपुर मंडी हो, तो आपको सडनली पता चलेगा कि दैट इज नॉट नोएडा। नोएडा मे बी NCR, वेरी मच अ पार्ट ऑफ एन अर्बन थिंग, बट नेक्स्ट डोर माइट बी अ विलेज विच हैज नथिंग टू डू विद दिस अर्बन। वहाँ भैंसे भी हैं, ऊँटे भी है, वहाँ दादागिरी भी है, खा पंचायत भी है। द सेम थिंग हैपेंस टू वेयर आई एम स्टेइंग इन गुड़गांव। I mean, where I stay, I was just explaining which part of Gurgaon I was staying. I stay next to a village called Katerpuri. On one side of my house is a village called Katerpuri. On the next side of my house is a village called Badshahpur. And as I come towards Delhi, there is a third village called Mola Hoga. Then I turn left and I go to Ruda Heda. And before I reach the Kakasena crossing. Now, so the point is that I am surrounded by rural India, जहाँ सुअर भी हैं, भैंसे भी हैं, कुत्ते भी हैं, सीवेज लाइन पानी की लाइन में मिलती भी है। We have had a burglary 2 days back in our house. Luckily, nobody was hurt, nothing was stolen. Why I am mentioning this is this, that the villages in India have sprawled out and encircled the cities, and some kind of an urbanization has taken place in even small towns. So it is not very easy to make a distinction in terms of how this is related to the second part of the question is important. अब आप बात कह रहे हैं the power of youth. जब हम power of, I mean, we leave this discussion open in this end कि what is India at the moment and what India are we talking about. मगर क्या जब हम power of youth की बात कर रहे हैं, all the youth in India can be labeled as one. I mean, it is very fashionable to say that the census figures of 2011 tell us that 70% of the population, if I am not remembering badly, is under 30 years of age. तो इसका division क्या है कि 0 से 16 तक इतने लोग हैं, 16 से 27-28 तक 55% है। लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दैट। सो से कि जब से आपने होश संभाला, जब से आप वोट देने के अधिकारी हुए 18 साल की उम्र में, almost half the population and more of India's population is youth. So what does it mean? We are talking in terms of power of youth. I think the phrase needs to be revised. We are talking of the energies, the potential latent energies of youth, not of power. Now why I am making a distinction is कि अगर आप power शब्द को लें तो what does the word mean? I mean, Bertrand Russell was a great philosopher and he said that power is the capacity, our capacity to make someone else do what we wish. So power is a capacity to get something done according to our wishes. So you have to harness energy and channelize it in a direction, apply it before it is power. Like all energy, like all power, it can be used either for good or for bad. Either it can be destructive or it can be constructive. So I conceive that the youth is a vast untapped potential reservoir of energy. ये अद्भुत शक्ति का ऊर्जा का स्रोत है, मगर इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि निश्चित रूप से इसका उपयोग भारत के उत्कर्ष के लिए ही, इमर्जेंस ऑफ इंडिया के लिए ही होगा. We shall come to this discussion also a little later. Why? Because I think if you keep another concept, there was a very interesting demographer, a very important demographer, उनका नाम था आशीष बोस, and he is the one who formulated the concept of बीमारू states. अगर आप बीमारू states देखें तो बिहार है, मध्य प्रदेश है, राजस्थान है, उत्तर प्रदेश है. यदि आप देखें तो उन्होंने क्या किया कि बंगाली थे और बहुत बुद्धिमान थे, तो उन्होंने अंग्रेजी के संक्षेपाक्षर लेकर एक एब्रिविएशन बना दिया कि बिहार, मध्य प्रदेश, राजस्थान, उत्तर प्रदेश. The short English word becomes Bimaru, which sounds a sick man. So all the 6 states of India, they are what you would call Hindi speaking cow belt, which is also called in Hindi the गोबर मट्टी. तो पता नहीं आप में से कितने लोग गोबर मट्टी के हैं, अगर अब आपका भाग्य है पढ़ तो आप गोबर मट्टी में ही रहे, तो मतलब people look down on those who stay or dwell in the heartland. Now what happens is, this does not mean that UP is inferior to Maharashtra or Maharashtra is more progressive than UP. It doesn't mean that UP is mentally more backward than Punjab. If you say that, look at the figures, the female infanticide, gender violence, khap panchayats are more dangerous in their manifestations in Punjab and Haryana than probably they are in UP and Bihar. And let's not compare 2 states, but I'm only saying that generalizations are dangerous. The second problem which always confuses me is this: all old men think alike because they have limited number of years to live. They think that they will only survive this much and they worry about this world, that world, security, etc. But each young man or woman feels and thinks differently. Why? Because अभी हमने बात की कि आधी से ज़्यादा आबादी हिंदुस्तान की युवकों की है, युवतियों की है. क्या ये सब एक से हैं? क्या इनमें सवर्ण और दलित और पिछड़े वर्ग के नहीं हैं? क्या इनमें शहरी और देहाती नहीं है? क्या इनमें स्त्री और पुरुष नहीं है? क्या इनमें अंग्रेजी माध्यम के पढ़े और अंग्रेजी माध्यम के नहीं पढ़े हैं? आई मस्ट शेयर विद यू समथिंग वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. हमारे घर से, गांव से, आई कम फ्रॉम उत्तराखंड, somebody came to stay with us. Fortunately or unfortunately, then we were staying in JNU, which had a toilet which was only a western style seat. तो उस गांव के लड़के ने जो MA पास था, आकर बाहर आकर मुझसे बड़ी मजे की बात करी. उसने कहा कि आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी में तो इंग्लिश मीडियम शौचालय बना हुआ है. तो जब उसने भी यूज द वर्ड इंग्लिश मीडियम टॉयलेट, which made me think very interestingly that the toilet was not speaking to him. But the moment he went to the toilet, he thought it was something alien and said कि इंग्लिश मीडियम टॉयलेट है. और उसके बाद में बहुत कुछ सोचने को मजबूर हुआ कि उस टॉयलेट में जब आप हाजत रवा करते हैं, दिशा शौच करते हैं, तो वहाँ एक पोस्टर मेरे एक दूसरे छात्र ने लगा दिया था जो देहाती थे कि अपने किए पर पानी फेरें. नहीं, मगर सुनिए, ये हंसने से अधिक महत्वपूर्ण चीज़ है. जब आपने कुछ कर लिया जो नित्य कर्म था आपका, अब अपने किए पर आपने पानी फेरा, अगर वो देशी शौचालय है, कदमचा जिसे कहते हैं, तो 2 लोटा पानी फेंककर आप अपने किए पर पानी फेंककर घर चले जाएंगे. वो मल सेप्टिक टैंक में पहुंच जाएगा. अगर वो इंग्लिश मीडियम टॉयलेट है, आप चेन खींचेंगे या फ्लश सिस्टम करेंगे तो 5 से 10 लीटर पानी उसमें एक बार मिल जाएगा. और अगर आप ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा अंग्रेज हैं और हर बार मूत्र विसर्जन के बाद ये क्रिया कर रहे हैं, तो आपका अपना कंजम्पशन यूरिनल और टॉयलेट का कम से कम 60 लीटर पानी का अपव्यय का प्रतिदिन का होगा. और उसके बाद JNU वाली छाती टूटते थे, माथा पीटते थे कि हमारे यहाँ वाटर शॉर्टेज है. और किसी ने ये नहीं सोचा था कि कितने अंग्रेज लोग यहाँ आएंगे और कितने भारतीय लोग यहाँ रहेंगे और वो किस तरह के शौचालय को इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। दैट इज वन पार्ट ऑफ द डिस्कशन विच वी मस्ट कीप इन माइंड। यदि एक वर्ग का व्यक्ति गांव से शहर में आता है और वो एक तरह से उसमें अपने एम्बिशंस, महत्वाकांक्षाएं हैं कि या तो आप एमपी होंगे या आप डिप्टी कलेक्टर बनेंगे या आप आर्मी में जाएंगे, मगर आपने अपना एक एम्बिशन तय किया है, क्या उस एम्बिशन का, क्या उस सपने का कुछ लेना देना इमरजेंट इंडिया से है कि नहीं है? अब इसके दो पक्ष हैं। एंड लेट्स गेट बैक टू मिस्टर मोदी अगेन एंड माय डॉटर इन लॉ हु इज एन MBA फ्रॉम Kellogg, working as a president in an American bank, but is a supporter of Aam Aadmi Party. Told me something very interesting after this आपकी अदालत. She told me तुम तो बिक गया, मुझे तुमसे ही उम्मीद नहीं थी. After she calls me uncle because she has stayed with my son before marriage as well. It was a love marriage, but this lady told me आप बिक गए, आप मोदी की अदालत में गए and you sold out. So first of all I told her कि dear baby, selling out is a legal concept. Nobody can buy or sell unless a thing of value changes hands. कुछ मुझे मिला हो बदले में तो I have sold out. अगर मुझे कुछ मिला ही नहीं तो मैं स्वेच्छा से कहीं बैठा, मेरा धन परिवर्तन कह सकती हो गया है, मगर बिका हुआ तो आप मुझे नहीं कह सकते. But she was very determined because she was a supporter of the Aam Aadmi Party. She continues to be a supporter of the Aam Aadmi Party. She was an election agent of Yogendra Yadav. And मैंने अपने पैरों पर और उल्हाड़ा मारा. उन्होंने मुझसे पूछा कि तुम्हारे ख्याल में चुनाव का परिणाम क्या होगा, तो मैंने कहा योगेंद्र यादव के जमानत जब्त हो जाएगी. तो वो बहुत नाराज हुए. दुर्भाग्य से जमानत जब्त भी होगी. उन्होंने ये कहा कि तुमको ये पहले से पता था कि मोदी कितना षड्यंत्र करेगा और योगेंद्र यादव की जमानत जब्त हो जाएगी. तो मैंने कहा बीवी ये तो बता दे कि जब इलेक्शन हो रहे थे तब तो मोदी प्रधानमंत्री नहीं था, तब तो प्रधानमंत्री यूपीए 2 की सरकार थी. तो आखिर अगर षड्यंत्र किसी ने किया भी है तो वो यूपीए 2 की सरकार ने किया होगा. But that is not a joke. What I am trying to convey to you is this: that different members of the youth have different aspirations, different ideological commitments, different identities. अगर आप दलित महिला हैं और न करें ईश्वर आपके साथ बलात्कार भी हुआ है और आप बच गए हैं, तो आपकी समझ भारत के बारे में बिल्कुल दूसरी होगी उस व्यक्ति से जो प्रीति जिंटा है. अगर प्रीति जिंटा ही कहती है कि मुझे सेक्सुअली अब्यूज किया है मिस वाडिया ने, तो समाज के सबसे समृद्ध वर्ग के 2 लोग इंग्लिश मीडियम शौचालय का प्रयोग करने वाले. अब देयर इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग जोक व्हिच आई डोंट नो हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू हैव एवर हर्ड. The whole world is divided into 2 kinds of people: those who are washers and those who are wipers. I don't have to explain this. कि शौच जाने के बाद कुछ लोग धोते हैं, कुछ लोग पोंछते हैं. जो पोंछते हैं वो ज़्यादा सभ्य होते हैं, वो अंग्रेज होते हैं. जो धोते हैं वो धोती प्रसाद होते हैं, वो जाहिर होते हैं, वो ज़मीन पे आते हैं. तो नहीं, क्षमा कीजिएगा, ये सुनने में अटपटा लगता है, बट when you think about it, you find out जो हाथ से खाता है वो असभ्य है, जो कांटे छुरी से खाता है वो सभ्य है. आप अगर देखें जो संसार में इमरजेंट देश सबसे बड़ा है चीन, जिसका इमरजेंस निर्विवाद है, वो लोग चॉपस्टिक से खाते हैं, चॉपस्टिक से ही पकाते हैं. चॉपस्टिक से धोते पोंछते हैं ये मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ. अगर हिंदुस्तानी आदमी अपनी दाल रोटी जब खाता है तो रोटी तो वो हाथ से खा लेगा, मगर अगर आप कैंटीन में बैठेंगे और अगर आप हाथ से चावल खा रहे होंगे तो आपको लोग देहाती समझेंगे. आप कांटे या चम्मच से ही चावल खाएंगे. कांटे से कम खाएंगे, चम्मच से ज़्यादा खाएंगे, क्योंकि कांटे का अभ्यास कम होता है और दाल तो सुड़क के नहीं पिएंगे, चम्मच से ही पिएंगे. तो ये अगर खीर भी आपको कटोरी में मिलेगी तो आप चम्मच से ही खाएंगे. आप रोटी या पूरी का कोना बनाकर उसको खाने की कोशिश नहीं करेंगे. Why I am saying this is for another very basic reason. When we are talking of emergence of India, what are we talking about? Are we talking of economic emergence? Are we talking of political power? Are we talking of cultural independence and autonomy? यदि आप मानसिक रूप से गुलाम ही हैं, आपने अगर मॉडर्निटी का पूरा मॉडल वेस्ट का यथावत एक्सेप्ट कर लिया है, तो क्या आप अपने को इमर्जेंट नेशन कह सकते हैं? और जो यूथ की पावर है, अगर उसकी धार हमने कुंद कर दी है मौलिकता के बारे में सोचने में, तो कैन वी रियली एक्सपेक्ट इंडिया टू बी ट्रूली इमर्जेंट एवर? 2 pictures from yesterday, or 3 pictures from yesterday. The PSLV 29, I think, was successfully launched, and Modi watched it. That is a symbol of India emerging. India emerging as a satellite power, India emerging as a technological superpower, India emerging as a potentially powerful political nation, India as a preeminent power or actor in South Asia, because Modi talked about the sun satellite. The same newspaper tells you of Mr. Gadkari belonging to the same party, saying that electronic rickshaw should be legalized, given permission and so on and so forth. But also the same news item says कि उनके साले साहब ने कहा है कि उनकी जो बुर्दी कंपनी है वो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक रिक्शे बनाएगी. You also have a news item about a 24-year-old guard, Sajjad Hussain, having tried to rape a young poor caste girl who was a lawyer, when he could do that, murder her. And a judgment has come out that he will be found guilty. The quantum of punishment will be that. You will go over the newspaper and you would say कि जितनी खबरें आपको यूथ की पावर की कंस्ट्रक्टिव मिलेगी, लगभग उससे 10 गुना ज़्यादा आपको परेशान करने वाली मिलेगी कि यूथ की पावर इमर्जेंट इंडिया के हित में नहीं, बल्कि इमर्जेंट इंडिया के प्रकट होने को रिटार्ड करने के लिए जा रही है. Whether it is a communal disarming, whether it is a तोड़-फोड़, whether it is a almost 500 million, and the neighbors' population, except Pakistan and Bangladesh, like China, is not suffering from this kind of a diplomatic dividend. हमारा inherent advantage है. If we really don't blow it up, we can probably do very well. But then comes the crucial question, which I want you to consider very, very thoughtfully. What are your individual ambitions? As an individual, the women obviously want parity with men. Men would accept this theoretically, but in real life would not like to do that. I will share with you an example, which again is autobiographical, but very sad. It taught me a very big lesson. My sister's daughter came to study here 3 years back in Delhi. She was 17. She had got very good marks. She managed to get into a university college. And she wasn't getting a hostel. She had good enough marks to get an admission, but not good enough marks to get the first list of hostel. So she started staying with me. Get back to JNU campus. I'm not sure how many of you know JNU campus, but JNU campus is very close to Vasant Vihar PVR complex. You cross the road 500 yards and you reach this. The first week this girl comes to me. At 6 she told me, Mama, can I go to watch the 9 to 12 show? She gave me enough warning. So my gut reaction was, I think I'm a very progressive person, I think I'm a very liberal person. And I said, 6 से 9 में क्यों नहीं चली जाती? तो she said कि 6 से 9 में टिकट नहीं मिल रहा है, मैं 9 से 12 में दोस्तों में समझा रही हूँ. Without thinking for a minute, I said नहीं मत जाना. This girl was a tough customer. She asked me, क्यों मत जाना? सब बाकी लोग तो जा रहे हैं. So I gave her 2 stupid reasons. I did not think they were stupid then, but I realized they were stupid later. I said, जब तुम शाम को आओगी ना तो रास्ता बड़ा अंधेरा है. And you can always be, you run the risk of being molested. The girl did not take a second to reply to me, which I then thought was pretty rude. She said, मगर तुमने भैया को तो कभी मना नहीं किया मामा. Even भैया can be molested. No. Not only that, she came up with 2 cases of boys having been molested by these lusty, nice kids staying next door. And she had a point. And then I realized that I was suffering from a gender bias myself. If I were worried about the security of the young girl, I should have applied the same yardstick to the security of a young boy of the same age. He could be molested, he could be beaten up, he could be mugged, he could be snatched. And this girl said, we are going as a crowd, we are going about 20 people, and I think we are reasonably safe. With very great reluctance, I allowed her to go. Nothing happened. She lived happily in that house for 2-3 months, but she moved out. She moved out and she told my sister, Mama claims to be a very progressive modern person, but suffers from a very strong gender bias और उनके दिमाग में भी खाप पंचायत का ही मलबा भरा हुआ है. So my sister told me this and I had to eat crow and suffer this in silence because I knew that was probably the truth. I was applying 2 standards between a male child and a female child and finding reasons for that. बाद में मैंने कहा नहीं वो मेरी लड़की होती तो मैं अलाउ कर देता, तुम्हारी लड़की थी इसलिए नहीं कर रहा था. But I know in my heart of hearts that I would have done the same. What is worse? You could say that आप अपनी बात छोड़िए, आप तो 70 बरस के बूढ़े हैं, आपको दोनों पैर खबर पे लटके, आप किसको चिंता पड़ी है. Same thing happens to my son, who's 40, whose reactions to when we were employing a servant in the house was the same. I don't want an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old servant in the house because I've got two young girls in the house. Now, that's the kind of a mindset. I'm not talking of autobiography. I think most people in India live a life of double standards, including youngsters, including young people who would like to live a life of revolution, of idealism, as long as it doesn't directly affect them. When it affects you, you would be very happy to take advantage of your caste, your gender, your social class, your English medium education or otherwise, your urban background or not urban background, and so on. I was driving to Delhi day before yesterday from Uttarakhand, from my village. We stopped for tea at a small roadside dhaba, and the boy was there who couldn't speak Hindi, who couldn't speak English obviously at all. He was 16, 17. I said, "कहाँ यहाँ रहते हो?" Very proud. He said, "नहीं, मैं तो दिल्ली का हूँ." तो मैंने कहा, "दिल्ली के हो तो यहाँ क्या कर रहे हो?" बोले, "ये मेरे मामा हैं, मेरे माँ बाप यहाँ रहते हैं." मैंने कहा, "बेटे तुम यहाँ के हो, दिल्ली में रहते हो?" उसने कहा, "नहीं, मैं दिल्ली वाला हूँ, ये देहाती लोग मेरे रिश्तेदार हैं, वो यहाँ रहते हैं." Now that inverted pride is something which I am worried about when we talk in terms of emerging India and youth. Because this 17-year-old boy does not have a sense of belonging to Uttarakhand, he is not rooted in his village. I don't want him to stay in the village. I don't want him to waste his career there. But what is he doing in Delhi? He is washing dishes in Delhi in a dhaba. He is not educated, but his pride is कि मैं तो दिल्ली का रहने वाला हूँ. So what good is an emergent India if you are not benefiting from the emergence of India? So I think there are three aspects before we open it for discussion and discuss. I think to me there are two things which worry me. When we say emerging India, there is an emergence of economy, economic development. There is an emergence of political power which allows you to pursue autonomous policies internally, have law and order maintained, and ensure that social justice is delivered. But when we talk about social justice, does it only mean reservations? Does it only mean reservations, quotas, license permits, infinity? What about the creamy layer? What about real equity within castes and so on? Third is, of course, can a nation emerge unless it retains its cultural identity? And when I say cultural identity, I do not mean religious identity. I mean, take for instance a statement which upset me very greatly recently. Dr. Harshvardhan happens to be a personal friend regardless of the political divide. And he comes out with this stupid statement, there is no other word but to say stupid statement, that sex education should not start in the schools. On this, he is in total agreement with Ghulam Nabi Azad, the Health Minister of UPA 2 and UPA 1, sex education should not take place. Because we and he belong to a generation, or to be grammatically correct, he and I belong to a generation when sex education was not fashionable in schools or not accepted. But now a child maturing so much earlier than our generation is exposed to so much diverse influences and bombardment of information about sex. Are you trying to say that birds do it, the bees do it, jab phool khile, jab phool mile variety, and say forget it, yeah, let's not talk about this? And it is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. The other interesting thing is that I was accidentally on a discussion last night on television about Swami Shankaracharya, Swarupanand and the Sai Baba thing. Why I made the preface in the beginning is that I am an atheist. So I'm not misunderstood with this one. But the constitution of this country gives me a fundamental right to worship and pursue matters of faith according to my own freedom, free will. And this Shankaracharya, this Chela was kept saying, Swadharmi nidhanam shriya par dharmo bhayama. But I said, Swami ji, मुझे ये तो पता नहीं कि स्वधर्म क्या है. अगर स्वधर्म मेरा धर्म है, तो I have the freedom in a democratic country to choose my own belief system. I may be an atheist, but let me have the choice to choose that. Let me be able to choose कि मैं हिंदू हूँ तो किस तरह का हूँ, कि मेरे यहाँ तो कोई इमाम नहीं है, मेरे यहाँ कोई खलीफा नहीं है, मेरे यहाँ कोई शाही इमाम नहीं है, मेरे यहाँ कोई खलीफा नहीं है. तो आपको ये अधिकार किसने दे दिया कि आप तय करेंगे कि मैं पूजा करूँ कि नहीं करूँ, सही बाबा की करूँ कि नहीं करूँ? एंड ऑफ कोर्स बाबा जी टाइड हिमसेल्फ इन नॉट्स बाय सेइंग कि आदमी की पूजा नहीं करनी चाहिए. मगर मैंने बाबा जी को याद दिलाने की कोशिश की, जो हिंदुओं के 10 अवतार हैं उनमें 3 तो कम से कम आदमी है, राम कृष्ण परशुराम, और दशावतार जो जोड़ा गया था वो बुद्ध भी आदमी थे और पैदा हुए थे और मरे थे. तो तो अगर हम उनको पूछ सकते हैं तो it is a theoretical issue. But the point is, the third aspect to my mind is the most important. There can be no emergence of India or any other nation state unless there is a vision of shared vision of cultural identity. उसमें हिंदुज़म भी है, इस्लाम भी है, मुसलमानी भी है, इस्लाम भी है, हिंदुज़म भी है, बुद्धिज़्म भी है, सिखिज़्म भी है, but there's one aspect. The point is, as long as people do not have a shared sense of identity, you can't have a shared dream. And as long as you do not have a shared dream, you are not going to have a shared vision to struggle together. So there can't be a shared struggle unless there is a shared dream. There can't be a shared dream unless there are shared memories. There can't be shared memories unless you have a shared sense of identity कि आप क्या पहनेंगे, क्या नहीं पहनेंगे. Now the point is that you are sitting here with jeans and tops. There are parts of this country where not only the BJP but the Islamic Talibanis, Hindu Talibanis, and some old-fashioned government people belonging both to BJP and Congress and Communists would say there should be a dress code. I can see there should be a dress code in a professional institution. I can see that there should be a formal dress in the Institute of Management. That when you come for a formal occasion, you will be dressed up in a formal suit. I quite accept that. But outside my formal job thing, what I wear, what I eat, should be a matter of choice. Now, if youth is struggling for this, but not for something more substantial, I am a little disturbed. I am a little worried कि जितना झगड़ा है वो ये कि मुझे जीन्स पहनने दीजिए, मुझे टॉपलेस पहनने दीजिए, अपनी टॉपलेस की टॉप पहनने दीजिए, स्लीवलेस हो. Topless would be too much for this country for many years. But the point is that you say you are struggling for food, struggling for मुझे मिलना चाहिए. I mean, this is a major issue of student struggle in JNU, that no McDonald's or Nirula should open because they are colonial American imperialism. Hilarious part is this, that all of us would be using an iPhone, all of us would be using an American Apple or other computer, all of us would be very happy to accept an American scholarship to go abroad and study, all of us would have no problems drinking Coca-Cola from the Java, which is American imperialism. But हमको उससे बड़ा एतराज़ था कि हम मार्क्सिस्ट थे, हम सोशलिस्ट थे, कि यहाँ कोई आउटलेट नहीं मिलना चाहिए, and so on. Besides, so I think that is the major challenge for in India's path of real emergence is that all of us, unfortunately, youth included, suffer from double standards, and we are not prepared to face this fact कि हमारा individual जो ambition है वो national aspiration से मिल रहा है कि नहीं मिल रहा है. I mean, there is an old quote which is not a very fashionable quote these days. John Kennedy's quote: "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." And it is not a question of त्याग और तपस्या. If you do your bit for making India strong, you probably will benefit much more from India becoming strong, India developing economically, then you would only pursue your individual career track. And this leads us to the last point which I wanted to share with you is, you are studying management. Management is not a very good word. When you say, that's all right, sir, a reasonable amount of disturbance is more than welcome, which I can think of chuta बैठ के सुनेंगे. The problem is when you say, let me manage this problem. तो क्या वो अच्छी चीज़ है? क्या आप समाधान वास्तव में वो ढूंढ रहे हैं, या आपकी कहने की मुझे एक समस्या मिली थी, मैंने उसको मैनेज कर दिया, somehow I fixed it. All of you have to, as students of management, realize that a good manager is also a visionary leader. He has to have a vision. Anybody who has been a successful manager has had some vision. He has brought about a paradigm shift. And I say this again with a sense of interesting thing. When I was a much younger person, at the age of 19, I went to Singapore. I went to the history department. And the history department had a chair there. And the chair there is Mr. Parkinson's chair. And very few people remember that one of the founders of the fundamental seminal concepts of management, Mr. Northcote Parkinson, was not a management expert. He was a professor of history. So the point is that you have this interesting thing, that if you are studying management, you are studying management not only to manage your lives and careers, you must imbibe certain values of good managers which are leadership qualities, and most important of that is a vision. And what is a vision? A vision is a shared dream. You have a dream, Mr. Modi has a dream, and he won the elections decisively because he managed to convince the people that his dream was their dream also. Now you may say that we झूठा नारा दिया, उन्होंने लोगों को बेवकूफ बना दिया. I am quite willing to concede the theoretical possibility. It's much too early. I am not here to promote the Modi myth, but he won because he worked on the winning formula of successful people. मोदी के जीत के मंत्र क्या थे? I mean, I've never been the same man after the rally. मैंने अपने घर में इतनी गाली खाई, दोस्तों से इतनी गाली खाई कि आपको क्या हो गया बुढ़ापे में, आप दिल गए, आप हिंदुत्ववादी हो गए, आप पेशेंटरी हो गए. I had to seriously think about why am I supporting Modi? And then something very interesting happened. A publisher friend of mine said, would you be interested in doing a short book on Modi's winning formula? So I said yes, immediately. And the publisher was Rupa, it's a good publisher, and I talked to Mr. Mehra, who's a much older person than I am, who was a Naxalite at one stage in Calcutta, but he's a capitalist in heart. So it's an interesting combination. I started thinking, what did Modi do? I will share with you, I finally found out there were 7 distinct winning formula of Modi. One was a dream. He said, I also have a dream. We can change India. Changing India was a dream which he shared with the youth of this country. The second was that not only he had a dream, he had a strategy how to do it. He wanted to become the Prime Minister of India before he would change India. To become the Prime Minister of India, he had to have a majority. To have a majority and a straight majority for BJP, he had to win UP. He had to win UP and win at least 70 seats there. Nobody thought he would win more than 30, 35. He won actually 72. So then he answer yourself. I'm not avoiding the answer. I'm much too old to prescribe a solution which can be guaranteed for success. But you are at an age where you can have an answer. It doesn't prove to be the right answer, but you have the number of years in your favor to make a mid-course correction, as they say in management, and revise your either goals or revise your strategy or have a new solution, go for a jugaad kind of thing or have a quick fix solution, or you go for a long-term solution, you do damage control. You have various options. Now each one of us has to live our lives as an individual. Suppose it is a question of marriage, and all of you will be reaching the marriageable age very soon. Do you accept the arranged marriage solution which tradition sanctifies? Or would you be a rebel in the context of your marriage? It can be a smaller issue or a larger issue than marriage. You get a job after management, you come from a conservative family, you are getting an excellent pay package and a placement, not in Bangalore where people would allow you to go, not in Pune where people would allow you to go, but maybe it is an odd industrial place somewhere back of the beyond in the jungle. Maybe it is Bhilai, maybe it is Durgapur, maybe it is in Jharkhand, where there is a bit of a Naxalite movement, there is a bit of a Zamalat, bit of a law and order, maybe not even Bombay. We talked of the guard in a multi-story apartment trying to rape and murder a bright young promising law thing. Lots of techie women are getting killed. If the husbands don't kill them, the colleagues